Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, YouTubers. This is Jerry Diamond with How to Get Out of Babylon. I've got some time to do more videos with what time I have with getting everything else I need to get done. Point being is my friend Bill and wife went to help a friend move from Florida to North Carolina, so I got some time. I will have some extra time, and I'm going to try to make time to get some things done here, video-wise, information-wise. So where I'm going to start off with right here is, oh my gosh, and I'm just tired. I'm front of, just from the day, kind of a busy day. But I did a video on starting a fire, top loading fire in the side loading stove, top load updraft fire in the side loading stove. Okay, so I've done enough of those, but the girl needed help, so I went over and helped. All right, so we got a time sensitive deal coming up here. The 14th, which is Monday. Today is Friday. Thursday, I think. Thursday night, yeah. So I want to get some information out, and I've touched on it a couple of times from a couple of different angles. Because I'm just sensing it. Maybe not the 14th, and I do think there's definitely some things going to happen there. Change in the spiritual realm, political, economic, personal for a lot of people. So I'm kind of beating around the bush. I'm talking, trying to get something out of here. I know you can see I got my eyes closed because I'm just trying to concentrate. So there's two names, two words that I want to bring up, and I want to go into that. One is Jezebel. The other is Valkyrie, both female names, basically. Jezebel, I'm going to come back to. I'm not going to go into that now, but I believe that my sense is that there's some things going to happen. I've been sensing this for some time, that Jezebel is going down. Jezebel is going to be thrown off the wall, as it were, run over by a chariot, and the dogs eat her, and she's going to end up as dog excrement, dog poop, in the fields of Jezreel, except for her head, hands, and heads, palms of her feet, and feet. Heads, feet, and palms of her hands. Hopefully, the Father will do a completely thorough job this time. Just take the entire entity and put it down in the depths of hell where it belongs. So, that being said, I believe that it's going to affect people that I know. I really do. That's what I sense. I feel it. Pride, arrogance, haughtiness are going to go down. I think a lot of people are going to be humbled. Now, I brought up the question before of if something does happen, if God does end Jezebel in this time frame, in this entity, in this that if He ends the time in this plane of existence on this earth as we know it for good, coming up here shortly. If that indeed happens, what happens to the people who are controlled by Jezebel? Do they die? Do they just are they freed? I hope the latter. I pray the latter. Although I'm not positive on that. I just don't know. I have a sense that something's going to happen. Some people need to make some decisions. I think some people make them, regardless of that, some people need to make some decisions rapidly here in the next few days. And I have one very particular person in mind that could be huge. We're talking thousands upon thousands upon thousands of lives at stake, depending on this person's choice. And I look at it this way: if you are not willing to do what Father has given you to do in this world with what He's given you, perhaps He doesn't need you in this world. He may remove you from this world. I'm just telling you that. I'm putting this out there. I hope if whoever hears this and it makes sense to you, I hope that you listen, heed it, and make a change in your life. I had a really good talk tonight with a brother out in California, and it could apply to him. I don't know. But I'm not thinking it does, and I'm not hoping it does or anything, but he knows that he needs to make some changes and make some decisions and put some action, put some rubber to the road, some pedal to the metal, some Christianity and shoe leather, as J. Vernon McGee used to say. This is where the rubber meets the road. This is Christianity and shoe leather. Yeah, you need to get your Christianity in shoe leather, people, and get moving. Okay, so Jezebel 1. The other one, Valkyrie. This brought me back to a book that I've read, and I love it. I referred to it quite often. And I went back and listened to me read a big section, a good-sized section of it, several chapters. Just fascinating. I mean, I love the story. It's a love story. Beautiful story. One of the most beautiful love stories ever written, I think. And but there's a lot of lessons in my life, in what I see happening and what I see is going to happen, has to happen in this world, in this region, in the Ozark Plateau, in everybody's life, but specifically this circular region that Father has designated as his personal land of Goshen, his green island of survival, his ark, his floating ark, his Mount Zion, whatever you want to call it, however you want to perceive it. I don't care what you think of it. I know what he thinks of it, and I know what I think of it, and I agree with him. And that's why I am doing what I'm doing. And some of you that have the capability to help, and if you're not going to help, I think you're going to be set aside and done away with. Just my sense. I don't hope that. I certainly don't hope that. I hope that you will, get involved and become a part of what he wants for your life and be a part of the building up of his kingdom, because if not, there may come a time when he just figures he doesn't need you anymore. So, so the storyline, I'm going to try to sum this up and then cut this video off. This is going to be kind of an introduction, along with my prefatory remarks, my background remarks on Jezebel and Valkyrie. I'm going to try to sum up this story, and I could do it by reading it, and I may end up doing that. I don't know. The book, you can look it up. I'll have the link in the article here. The Ring of Fire, 1632. Okay, and the story is that a 6-mile diameter circular region, like you took a cookie cutter, a globe, and you did a cookie dough, make a perfectly round circular cookie dough. A 6-mile ball, 6 miles up into space, 6 miles down into the ground, and 6 miles across. Well, 3 miles up, 3 miles down. Okay, diameter, 6 miles, 3 miles up, 3 miles deep, and 6 miles wide, was popped out of West Virginia, coal mining region, West Virginia, flipped out of space and time back into 1632 Germany in the middle of the 30-Year War. And it makes for a fascinating read, but let me read this. Alternate timelines outside space and time. And this is written because of a woman who wrote me, and thinking back in time, she met a man who she really enjoyed, really liked. He came and it's kind of a weird thing, but she really felt drawn to him. She really liked him, and I don't think it's in this letter. So I can't. I'm recounting it from memory. I don't know if I have it written down anywhere. But she was really drawn to him, really liked him, was attracted to him, and he wanted to come over and stay at her place, because of, avoiding the appearance of evil, as I recall. I don't know, but whatever happened, he didn't stay on the couch, or he didn't sleep there. They didn't sleep together. They didn't get married, and she never saw him again. And so I'm dealing with this question in my life and in her life. So I'm basically writing to this gal. And I know her name, but I'm not going to say it, because she's on, different forums and things that you're probably on. So, well, I've been thinking more and more, how people believe in the Mandela effect and how they're actually making that happen with the Large Hadron Collider, creating portals and interdimensional time travel, et cetera, et cetera. Well, I've been thinking more about the fact that if man can do weird things like that, time travel and space-time continuum changes, and different alternate universes and different timelines. You've heard of the Philadelphia experiment, where this whole ship supposedly was went through a time tunnel back into time. And there are probably millions and millions of Christians who believe that man is capable of doing these things. So there's millions of Christians who believe that man can create a portal and change time and change the King James Version Bible and every Bible that's ever been written. There's effective past and the translation, and they believe that man is capable of doing those things. And I see I see whatever you about. Okay, my question is, why do we think that God can't do the same thing? I mean, would we not all agree that he exists outside of space and time, that he created both space and time? How did he describe himself to Moses? I exist that I exist. I am that I am. He exists always and everywhere. So maybe in another timeline, you let him cuddle, this man cuddle, and nothing happened. They didn't have sex. And there's cuddle.com, at least until COVID-19 came along. There's a website called cuddle.com, and a friend of mine, a very godly woman, told me about it. People need physical touch. They need contact. And so there's people had started this thing, cuddle.com, where you would sign up and go, and people would, let's say someone with a very large house would host a get together, and you would cuddle. You would just hold each other, and there's no sexual connotation or seduction allowed. But she said a lot of people end up falling in love and getting married and have very, very good marriages from that. But not at the meetings. They would have meetings, and you would just cuddle. Cuddle.com. It's gone now, but you might be able to find it on Web Archive. I think people need what they're doing. They would have groups get together because we need to hold each other, we need to hug, and we need to have physical touch. So maybe in some alternate universe you did stay in the same bed that night, and later someday you married and had children and everything else that would have happened, and had many, many years of happiness with him. I imagine that. Okay, so since I'm on that subject, the reason I've been thinking about that is, what if there was an alternative timeline or universe in which I actually had a brain and actually had more capability to help bring my vision to pass than in this one with the body and brain I have now, or in this one with the body and brain I have now. Maybe I'd live my life differently. I'd learn more technology, like computer savvy stuff. Stayed in better shape and didn't have a heart attack, didn't have a couple of strokes, and right now I would have several $1 million to be able to help people, say $12 million, which is what I need. Couldn't Father somehow bring that to pass? I've believed for many, many years that I would end up with $12 million. For a long time I thought it was $18 million, but I made a deal with a brother, shook hands for $12 million, that if Father gives me $12 million, I give him $6 million, and if he gets $12 million first, he gives me $6 million. So because I'd already made a deal with 6 people, I actually asked them to fill out a budget, make me a budget, what they would do if I gave them $1 million, and 3 of them did it. 3 of them did that, so those 3 people I would consider that I would give them $1 million if I had the capability. So I wanted to have the ability to give him $6 million, give $6 million to 6 people, $1 million each to 6 people, and have $6 million left. So whatever. I don't care if it was somebody else from the start of this whole thing. I don't care if it was somebody else rather than me doing what I'm doing. I wish that there was somebody that I could have just served and be their protege or their aide-de-camp or something, their servant. I want to be Sam to a Frodo. I don't want to be Frodo anymore. I'm being killed by the burden, fading, stretching, growing pale. I never did want this job anyway, and I never asked for it. In fact, early on, a guy said something about that, and I said, hey, I'd just as soon be in the wind under somebody else's wings and help them. Anyway, his response was, he fired right back with, Moses tried that. I say you got a job to do, just do it. And I felt that was a message for me, period. Was he an angel? I don't know. It was a message. I've had so many messages like that. So many weird people show up in my life at critical times, and they've kept me going against all odds and through such difficult times, such unbearable loneliness. Anyway, I'd really be happy right now if someone came along right now that had a lot more intelligence, a lot more drive, more money, more skills, more talent, more leadership capabilities, and I could just kneel down and offer my service. Here's my sword. If by life or death, if by life or by death I can save you, I will. And offer my service. I wish there was someone like that right now. If I went through some divine portal, I go back in time, and a different time, on a different alternate universe or whatever, and I don't make the mistakes I made in this life, I could just kneel down and offer my service. I wish there was someone like that right now. Okay, I already said that. Do about find a different time. Oh, I gotta try to stop doing that. I took too much of this. This is the end of the statement, so I've already done that. Okay. I back it up and get the whole thing, and then it throws me off. How to do things I could just quantum jump back and make that to change several million more people. would be able to stay alive, I think, right now. Because right now I've done so much more. I could have done so much more, and there should be a much bigger, a huge difference greater than what I'm seeing right now. That was written when I was a little bit bummed out, obviously. Now, I got to say this, that recently something happened that I don't know what the amount of money, but an amount of money was in essence offered to me, and I said yes. But then it was withdrawn. So is that honest? Is that a good deal? Is that way to deal with Father, to deal with the kingdom, to offer and then retract the offer? I don't think so. Because I said yes. So I accepted that offer. So here's my take on it. There's a saying that Satan always gives you a counterfeit first before the real thing shows up. And that may be the case. And if it is, hallelujah. Someone wealthier, someone younger, someone better, more capable than this person that offered help and then withdrew it. So if that's the case, hallelujah. And so I feel encouraged, actually, even though I don't feel depressed at all about the situation. I'm not the one that lost anything. They're going to lose, because they're not having my help. They're refusing my help, and that's just cutting off your nose to spite your face. It's just stupid, because the Father's given me a job to do, and I'm going to do everything I can to see it happen, to see it come to pass. So I wrote an article called Outside Time and Space one time, and the idea being that this guy it was on Prepared Society Forum. I'll try to find it and read it, because I know I can find it eventually. I just got to figure out what word to punch into my email search thing to find it. I tried for about an hour earlier, and I can't find it yet. So this guy, he was a high priest of the Temple of Satan, and he and I kind of clicked on a few things. He and I would both disagree with this fundamentalist, hard, narrow-minded, bigoted, goofy, fundamentalist Christian guy. I would say, you're wrong, and this guy said, you're wrong. So we ended up siding with each other. He would agree with me, I'd agree with him. But interestingly enough, in his, it has your profile, and in his profile it says location. He said he had outside time and space, and that just set me off. I just lit me up, and I just started writing an article. And I said, that's where I'm looking at this whole thing from, outside time and space. That's where my Father looks at things. And that's where I'm still looking at it. And it kind of reminded me of Griff in Men in Black, where he says, this is my favorite memory of human history. Unless this is the one where Kay forgets to leave a tip, and you see this asteroid coming in toward the restaurant. And then Kay, Billy, Bobby, Tommy Lee Curtis, Tommy Lee Jones. Yeah, Tommy Lee Jones. He forgot to leave the tip, walked out of the restaurant. You see the asteroid coming. Then he opens the door and walks back in and leaves the tip. And there's a satellite, and boom, the asteroid gets thrown off. Diverted. Bad science, I know. Really bad physics. BP, bad physics. But the fact that there's any satellites big enough to just deflect an asteroid. Anyway, or if from the distance away, that would have to miss Earth. Ha ha ha. Anyway, I'm laughing at that. Okay, so anyway, it was a cute scene, and the thing is, outside time and space, Griff saw all of multiple. I mean, like almost an infinity of timelines, and he saw them all, and he never knew which one was which. And he was kind of a little figure of a little rendition of God or whatever. Multiple timelines. So I'm looking at this whole thing and going like, well, maybe there's another timeline where, everything worked out, and I did what I was supposed to do, and I was able to get done what I wanted to do, and met the right person, and the right person agreed to help me, and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. I'm not going to go into any more than that. So I need a helper. Someone meet to help. You get my meaning. Yeah. I'm to the point now, it's been 5 years since the divorce, and my wife married another man, so read Mark 10. I'm not going to make any further comment. Messiah made a statement on that. If a woman divorces her husband and marries another man, He says that. Look it up yourself. I'm not going to even make a comment. I'm not going to make any negative comment. So, point being is, as a believer, Paul says, if the believer departs, the believer is not bound. So I'm not bound. I can remarry, and I would like to. There, I said it. I need it. I need help. I need somebody to help keep my body alive for another few years. I don't really care about. I just as soon die right now. I mean, I just as soon. I'm tired. I felt like, honestly, I felt like I went to see Red Dawn when it first came out. It was at a dollar movie thing, so it wasn't right on the first week it came out. But several months later, I went to see it with my son. Oldest son was probably 4 or 5 years old, and me and Jed were all used up. That line where Matt says, "Me and Jed were all used up." Just make it count. I felt like I was worn out, beat up, and used up back then. That was like 30-some years ago, probably about 35 years ago. So whenever Red Dawn first came out, about 2 years after that, he was 75, something like that, about 77. No, my son was, okay, so married 77, 78, 79, 81, I don't know. Oh, you're about 85, yeah, 85, probably about 1987. I felt like I was completely worn out, used up by then. And if you think how I feel now after a heart attack and 2 strokes, I'm tired. I'm going to keep plugging along. I put my hand to the plow. I'm not turning back. But it would sure be nice to have another ox next to me. So I may or may not upload this. I don't know. But I want you to, here's what the point is. I want you to look at the book. Where is it? Come on. Did I not do it? No. I'm not going to see any embarrassing stuff on here. Oh my gosh, crazy stuff. Oh, I'd like to get into that. Wow. That's the West Coast, people. Volcano City. That's what I've been saying for years. Look at the Aleutian off of Alaska. The Aleutian Islands, a ring of fire. About 100 volcanoes there. You think that area is going to... you wonder why the West Coast is going to fall off in the ocean, because every one of those volcanoes means the earth could crack. That's fracking and, earthquaking on the dotted craton line. That is the craton, the western part of it anyway. Okay, what I'm looking for is the book. Doggone it. Come on. Okay. Valkyrie. I'm going to read this. I may go ahead and finish this section out. I read several chapters. I'll put the link in here. I was so enthralled and so fascinated by this part of this book. It's just one part, but it takes several chapters. I think about 5 or 6 chapters. Well, 10. There's 10 sections, 10 chapters I read. 10 sections or whatever. I think they're just chapters. So, and I read after it, and the story continues, of course, and what happens with this couple, this young couple. The story continues. So I may go ahead and finish that, but I'll put the link for this. I made a playlist. It took me a long time, hours to make this playlist, because it just wouldn't do it. I actually had to delete the old playlist and make a completely new playlist. So the 10 sections that I read, the 10 chapters that I read are actually, you can listen to me read them. And I comment on it too. It's not just me reading it. It's my comment. Okay. So this is a little section from the book, and this is toward the end of the story, and it's just going to, spoiler alert and all that. Shut this down right now if you don't want to ruin it. Won't really spoil the story, because I could read it 100 times and still be enthralled with it and still be fascinated by it. I'll go away. Okay, so the scene is at this part of America, West Virginia, 6-mile diameter chunk, ball, globe, was thrown back into Germany, and that section of Germany was flip-flopped and put into West Virginia. Poof. So you end up with a bunch of smoldering farmhouses because the war had hit it, and some dead people in an old German cottage hut. But the people that were there, it took the land and put it there. The people, some dead bodies came with the land, but the live people stayed there. All of a sudden, it's like chunk. They're in the middle of. Let's see, they're thrown back in Germany, right? Their vehicles with gas, weapons, and everything. They're back in 1632 Germany, and in modern West Virginia, there's just nothing but a few smoldering farm huts and 6 dead bodies. That's all they had for clues to go on for the geologists to figure out what in the heck happened. And one junior geologist figured it out, kind of, sort of, pretty much, but didn't write anything about it because they didn't want to get fired and he didn't want to lose his seniority and everything. So it would have destroyed his whole career to come up with such an insane idea that a chunk was thrown back into time and space, through time into a different space, a different continent. Because, okay, so what happened was, oh man, how can you sum it up? Bunny trail, bunny trail, bunny trail, bunny trail. A young couple fall in love, but the scene is that this young German girl who has been shepherding a whole group of people, her brother, her sister, her grandmother, and a bunch of other younger children, younger girls. She became their leader, their shepherd, their pastor, and she tried to keep them alive. She considered them her family, and she was brave, and she, protected them from beatings and stuff as much as she could. And she would give them her food and not eat. So, if it came down to it, she would give her brother food and she would not eat, because he had to go into battle. He was a soldier, conscripted, forced to fight as a mercenary army. So the scene here is after the battle. She had nowhere to hide the young girls who would be taken and raped and used as slaves, like she had been for 5 years. I think it was 5 years. She's been a slave, and she has a little baby by the man that leads this mercenary army, who had raped her repeatedly every day, beat her, bloody, very violent, very huge, filthy, despicable, stinking piece of human flesh. So she wanted to protect these girls, the young girls. She knew they'd be taken and raped and probably killed. One girl certainly wouldn't survive it because she's already been raped once. And so she takes the seat off of an outhouse and makes 4 of them go down in the outhouse, and then hands her baby down to her sister. And that's where the girls are in there in the outhouse with manure and poisonous spiders during the battle. So, and then she stood there just still as can be when the soldiers came up, and the winners of the battle were the Americans from modern America, because they had machine guns and stuff. So they're coming up, and the leader's coming up to her, and she stands there just straight as could be and just turns her face, because she figures that she's gotten the girls dirty, and now they won't be worth as much, and so she's going to get beaten for that as the leader of the Americans comes up. And of course he can't believe that he reads what's going on. He understands her thinking, and he just can't believe it's such a sick society that he'd been thrown into. So anyway, she stood there to face death, trying to protect all the younger girls in the outhouse. So Rebecca, it says, "Who is that?" asked Rebecca. Her eyes widened. "Is that the woman?" Happily, Melissa nodded. "Yeah, that's her. You heard the story, I take it?" Rebecca nodded. "Michael told me. The woman who hid her sisters in a cesspool in an outhouse, a shithouse, and then stood there straight up waiting for..." She shuddered. "I cannot imagine such courage." Mike stared at Gretchen through the window for a moment longer before adding, "Geez, what a Valkyrie." Melissa shook her head. "No, Mike, you're very wrong." She scowled. "Valkyries." The word was almost a curse word. Leave it to the sick and twisted mind of Richard Wagner to glorify a Valkyrie. Again, she took her companions by the arm and began walking toward the door. "A Valkyrie is just a vulture, a death worshipper. Choosers of the slain, they were called," as if that was something to be proud of. She stopped abruptly, almost yanking them up short. Her finger, extended, pointed to Gretchen. "That young woman, on the other hand, is something truly grand and glorious. That woman is a chooser of the living." And my voice is going. My point is that the point of this book is that we can be choosers of the living, or we can be choosers of the slain. And the whole concept of Valkyrie is a chooser of dead. It was women who would go out to the battlefield and choose who's going to live and who's going to die, and they would choose the slain and take them to Valhalla, which is a Norse satanic, crazy, insane concept of the afterlife. But anyway, if you look at the Dutch seats and the things going on, what they're saying is that Valkyrie is going down, Valkyrie is falling, and the fat lady is not going to sing. This is in relation to the whole Trump-Biden situation. Valkyrie has fallen and will not rise again, and the fat lady is not going to sing. Brunhilde was one of the Valkyries, and she was this, Norse braided hair, shield, spear, and everything. Will go out and drag the dead bodies, the choosers that she would say, "Oh, you're dying," and drag them to Valhalla. Well, she's a big fat lady. And at the end of the 15 hours of opera, if you can imagine, 15 hours of opera. Wagner's the Ring quadrilogy. It's 4 operas, 15 hours of singing to tell this story. And it's supposed to be really awesome and everything. Well, who cares? Anyway, basically, it's this magic ring was made, forged, and it sounds like Lord of the Rings. This ring was forged to control people, and the ring was cursed, and anybody who took it and used it would be killed or die or whatever bad things would happen to them. So it was cursed, just like the ring in the Lord of the Rings. And but Brunhilde is the fat lady, and at the end of the opera, she sings. That's where the saying comes from. It's not over until the fat lady sings. So what they're saying is, with all the people that have been praying about the election, that the fat lady is going down and she's not going to sing. It's over. And we're talking miracles, no question. We're talking some pretty amazing, bold, prophetic, spiritual warfare stuff going on. So along with that whole thing of the Valkyrie going down, not singing, that it's over, that it brought me back, like I said, to worship, to look at this. We don't want to be death worshippers, and too many believers are planning on being death worshippers. They're planning on killing people, going to war and fighting or defending their food or whatever it is. I talked with a brother today about that. Us for no more. Shoot first, ask questions later. Should I feed him or should I eat him? There's too much of that mindset throughout the prepper and survivalist movement, if you want to call it that. I don't know what the heck it is. Anyway, as I say, the concept, if you want to use the term and describe yourself as a Christian survivalist, that's an oxymoron, because survivalism, the whole concept of being a survivalist, is absolutely and utterly antithetical to Christianity. So give that some thought. I talked about it before. I'm not going to go into it now because my voice is going. But Christian survivalist is an oxymoron. Messiah said, "He that seeks to save his life shall lose it. He that seeks to lose his life for my sake shall find it." If you invest your life in the next life, in the afterlife, in heaven, there's nothing you can take to heaven except those you've led to Father, led to the Lord, and your children. That's it. That's all you can take to heaven. You're not taking a suitcase full of gold. You're not going to be taking a U-Haul. You're not going to be taking all your crap that you've accumulated over the years. And you think you're wealthy. You're not. If you cannot and are not willing to keep somebody alive, you're not wealthy in the kingdom of heaven's eyes, or even in the eyes of a pagan man. Buckminster Fuller, our Buckminster Fuller. We now know what true wealth is. True wealth is the ability to regenerate forward life. In other words, how many people can you keep alive for how many days? And if you're not willing to, or not able to, and not willing to keep somebody alive, you are not wealthy. Period. End of story. So this person that offered me to become a millionaire through contract, and then said, "No, you're poor. You are dirt poor in the kingdom of heaven's eyes. You have nothing, and you will have nothing, and you will end up with nothing." And that's sad, but true. And I'm a watchman, and I'm just saying that. That's the fact of the matter. And I don't think there's much time to be messing around here. There's people, I believe, that Valkyrie-oriented and Jezebel, controlling spirit, and I'm going to go a whole teaching on that. So get ready for that. Buckle up your seatbelts when we get started on that. That's going to be heavy. Jezebel does not have too much time either. I believe that there's something happening, has happened, was happening, will happen, present tense is happening in the spiritual realm that will affect our lives and will affect the lives of people in this earth, on this timeline, whose lives are controlled by Jezebel. Okay. Now, whether they die or not, I don't know. But I can see in one case where this person has gone through 3 major humblings. 3 major humblings. Financially. I don't know how you call it. Militarily. And physically, I'll say, as a euphemism. 3 huge, massive humblings, or things are very bad things are allowed to happen. Still proud as a peacock, still ungodly proud, horridly proud. And I just feel for that person. deeply. And I pray that they change. I pray that they're humbled. If they don't humble themselves, I think Father's going to humble them a fourth time, and it's not going to be pretty. Because it will affect either their home or their body. That's how I'm going to say. Not naming any names, of course, but if they happen to listen to this, they're going to know who I'm talking about, big time. So anyway, that's just what I'm saying. I'm a watchman. I got to tell people, your sword's coming. Our enemy's coming. If I don't blow the trumpet and warn them, blood's required in my hands, and I'm not going to have that. So I'm trying to get the message out. Okay. This is Jerry Diamond. If you're listening to this, you are the remnant. Thank you for listening. 35 minutes. Wow, baby.